Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into your stocks on CNBC-TV18, and like you saw just a short while ago, was just red on top of me. So this market's not doing too well. We're seeing markets are trading almost near the day's lowest point. Whether you look at the Nifty, it's down almost 0.6% in trade. 23,660 is what it's trading at. So clearly, just lost the momentum. It was, the range that it was holding on to at the 23,700, that's broken. Nifty Bank also at the day's lowest point, down almost 1%. Small cap was obviously an underperformer, but now that has also extended its decline even further. So Nifty small cap also is down and out in trade, and even the mid cap, that also is under pressure. So not much of an excitement that we're seeing coming in today in terms of the market, especially the second half of the trading session. A very dull day. Seems like that's what is shaping up. But this is a show where we solve all your stock-related queries with our experts. And our experts for today are Chandan Taparia, derivatives and technical analyst at Motilal Oswal Financial Services, as well as Gaurang Shah, who is the Senior Vice President at Geojit Financial Services. Good afternoon, Gaurang. Good afternoon, Chandan. Thank you so much for joining with us on the show. And today, seems like we were expecting less volumes, but because of that, we're seeing that fall also coming in the markets. Chandan, 23,600 around that mark. What we're trading at as of now in terms of the Nifty. Any word on the market and, what we should be watching out maybe this week or, next couple of weeks?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. So we have seen some recovery from lower levels in last 3-4 days, but market failed to hold its bounce back, and every bounce is being sold. Index has formed a doji sort of candle, which clearly indicated that absence of buying interest is seen in the market, and formation of bearish candle for the day clearly indicates that index has potential to break the recent low and go to retest the previous low made on 22nd of November. So as of now, till Nifty holds below 23,850 zone, we believe some more weakness could be there, which can take it towards 23,500 and 23,300 zone. So further 200 to 400 points decline could be seen as per the recent price setup. Technically speaking, if market fails to hold the current zone, then it may complete a bearish pattern, which is similar to bearish pole and flag pattern, which indicates some more weakness. So expecting a decline towards 23,300 in index.
Okay, thanks for that view coming in on the market. Keep an eye out on those levels that Chandan was just mentioning for you all. But on that note, let's get started with all the stock-related queries. Today's first query is coming in from Siddharsan, who's writing to us from Karnataka. He's holding 200 shares of VIPRO at a price of 204 rupees per share. He wants to know the future prospect of VIPRO and his holdings. Should he continue to hold this, given that he's making some bit of a profit? Gaurang, good afternoon. And what's your word coming in for VIPRO today? Obviously, we had those comments that have come in from Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump also supporting that for H-1B visas, and IT companies are something that are in focus for a while. So what are we watching out for here?
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's good to be back, and good afternoon to all of you all. Well, Trump tantrums will only be visible once he assumes the Oval Office, and he has said a lot during the presidential campaign in terms of tax cuts in Europe and tariff hikes. Now he's supporting H-1 visas for the IT sector. IT sector has been doing well on the earnings front. We've been positive at Geojit on the IT sector for a pretty long period of time. We continue to maintain our positive stance on the sector with the hope that we are going to see much more better quarters in form of third and fourth quarter, and even better for the next financial year starting 1st April 2025. For VIPRO, though, if you compare the large cap names amongst the IT sector, VIPRO has historically been a laggard when you compare with TCS, Infosys, HCL Tech, and Tech Mahindra. But things are started to look a little bit better. From a long-term point of view, on the fundamental side, we will advise and hold. But at the same time, it would be prudent to be aware about where the earnings are and how the earnings are delivered.
Okay, where the earnings are, how their earnings are going to shape out, that's also going to be important, though it's positive overall on the IT sector as a whole. But Chandan, on the charts and technicals, what are we watching out for from in terms of VIPRO? Anything exciting, or would you suggest the viewer should actually book out his profits?
So overall, we have seen decent recovery in the VIPRO in last almost 7 months. It has rallied from 200 to 320 marks. The good part is that Nifty IT somehow managed to hold well in the entire market scenario. So he can book, but overall, I believe that till it holds above 290 zone, the VIPRO has potential to witnessed positive to range bound bias was 320 and 335 level. So two suggestion, if he's holding, keep the support near 290. Otherwise can book and buy again on decline if he's looking for trading point of view.
Okay, thanks for that. But let's move on to the next query then. We have Raghuveer Jain writing to us from Mumbai. 10 shares of Hitachi Energy is what he's holding. Price is 10,617 rupees per share. Currently, stock is trading at 14,578. So yes, making profit on this one. He's asking that what is the medium-term outlook? As an investor, should he continue to stay invested and hold on at these current levels? Chandan, your view on the technicals first for Hitachi Energy.
So I think the stock has seen some volatile move, ups and downs, but broader range. The high value name usually see the less price movement comparatively. So as of now, the major support for the counter goes near 13,700. Till it holds 13,700, we may see a recovery. But again, it would be tough to move beyond 15,200 or 15,500 zone in the counter.
Okay, so keeping an eye on those levels over there. But Gaurang, on the fundamentals, how is Hitachi Energy India looking like? Is it something that merits and hold coming in for this one?
So we have an accumulate on Hitachi Energy India, and this company is associated with high technology industrial automation. And over here, our sense is that as we move into the next leap of going on raising the bar of manufacturing activities in India, as we have the aspirations to strive towards this next $1 trillion economy, I think companies like Hitachi Energy India would likely start to contribute. But let me give a word of caution is that the volumes are very, very thin on this particular counter. Unless and until you have a long-term horizon, you need to be a little bit careful if you are trading in from a short to medium term perspective. But fundamentals look extremely strong for Hitachi Energy.
Okay, so keep an eye out over there on Hitachi Energy and what our experts just told you all. But let's move on to the next query. Bajaj Housing Finance, that's a query stock which we'll be talking about. Srinivas is writing to us from Karnataka. 300 shares of Bajaj Housing Finance is what he's holding at a price of 136 rupees per share. Wants to know the long-term view for Bajaj Housing Finance and if he's willing to hold for a 2 to 3 year time period. Gaurang, does this merit continuing to hold, given that, we've seen a bit of a subduedness in the recent times, but obviously it comes in from the Bajaj group. So what is your thoughts on this one?
So the pedigree is absolutely beyond question, I would say that. And after a long time, we saw an IPO from the house of Bajaj. Well, I won't give a specific comment because we don't have a coverage, nor did we cover it during the IPO time. But let me say this. I think the entire housing sector looks to be well placed in terms of growth opportunity. And why do I say that? I think this is a total reflection of what the real estate sector is doing. I think when you have projects getting sold off within a pan of 2-3 days with a price tag of about anything between 4 crore, 5 crores to 6-7 crores, like we had it in Noida, Gurgaon region, that augurs well for the housing companies. Point number one. Point number two, we are possibly looking at a rate cut. And in case if that happens in Jan, Feb, March 2025, anytime in the first calendar quarter, then the first beneficiary is going to be housing finance companies. When I was listening to the management before the IPO and post the IPO, they have said that they are likely to grow at anywhere between 12 to 15% CAGR, which will translate into a decent growth. So the company is good, pedigree is good, and the business opportunity looks very, very promising.
Okay, that's where you're coming in from Gaurang. But Chandan, I know there's not much charts on this one, but any view on Bajaj Housing? Because since the time after its listed, we've seen that fall coming in. So anything that looks attractive on that front?
So we have limited data for this company, but if I look at the price story of last 4 months, it made high near 188 at the beginning of its listing, and after that has been making lower top, lower bottom, and now quoting below 130 zone. Earlier in the mid of November, it made low near 125 and then spiked to 147. We are near to the important level. So for me, we need to closely watch 125 as a key support. If that is respected, then some recovery could be seen, which can take it towards 135, 142. But if 125 is taken, then I think further corrective move could be seen and stock maybe at its lifetime low level. So my entire price data suggests about the 125 is a major level. So if someone is holding, use that level. Below that, we won't have any view, or it can further correct from current zone.
Okay, let's move on to the next query then. We have the query coming in from Sunil Kumar, writing to us from Vizag, who's holding 500 shares of JSW Infra at a price of 211 rupees per share. Wants to know whether he should continue to hold or look to sell JSW Infra. Gaurang?
You know, we had a subscribe for the IPO. IPO was at a much lower level sometime back. Companies into logistics and was in news, I think, about a fortnight back for all the good reasons. So if I make that IPO note as my base for recommendation, and if you've invested in JSW Infra from a long-term point of view, I would advise a hold. They have got huge operations in the Middle East, and they are scaling up the operations as far as the domestic business is concerned.
Okay, and Chandan, do you have any view on JSW Infra for the viewer?
Yeah, I think one can hold JSW Infra because major trend of the counter is positive. However, it has been moving in a broader range from last 6 months. We have noticed that multiple supports are now being shifted at 300 marks. It made an attempt till 335, 380, 338 just 2-3 months back. So that is a broader range, and I believe 300 to 335 will be the trading band one need to play. So till it holds 300, can use any small decline for buying opportunity for the higher side targets in the counter.
Okay, on that note, we'll slip into a very short break, viewers, but don't go anywhere because after the break, we'll still be continuing and still be solving all your stock-related queries. Welcome back to Your Stocks on CNBC-TV18. We still have our experts with us, Chandan Taparia as well as Gaurang Shah, to solve all your stock-related doubts. Let's move on to the next query, gentlemen. This one is coming in from Rajendra Nayak, who's writing to us from Hyderabad. He's holding 174 shares of Asian Paints, bought at a price of 2,950 rupees per share. Wants to know whether he can exit without, booking any losses. As of now, he's making a loss. Is there a possibility that we could see Asian Paints make a comeback? Gaurang, I beg your pardon, what's the view coming in on Asian Paints and paint sector as a whole? You know, we've seen them not do quite well in terms of the consumption discretionary side. Gaurang, do you think merits holding Asian Paints?
So, you know, when you invest in the stock market, you always want to come out and profit, right? Nobody wants to book a loss. And when you get stuck into a stock which is fundamentally strong, but due to certain reasons, from a short-term, medium-term point of view, if things are looking challenging, then you should need to put a strategy in place in terms of your investment. So, firstly, let me give a prudent disclosure. We have a buy recommendation on Asian Paints with a target of somewhere close to about 2,700. And his investment, which is of 174 shares at about 2,950, he needs to have a strategy in place and first of all, averaging his investment. That is, he needs to buy more because the price correction is quite attractive for an investor who's got invested at a higher level. Look at the pedigree of the stock and look at the past performance. Yes, I do accept that there is a lot of new upcoming competition in the paint sector. But the way I made it a point in terms of housing finance companies, if real estate sector is going to do well, then the real estate sector good performance is going to reflect upon not only housing finance companies, paint industry, sanitary ware, housing decor kind of companies, modernizing your house, etc., etc. All these companies are likely to do well. So pipes and fitting as a matter of example. So I would say that to Mr. Nayak is that, look, hold on to your investment, average at current level, try to bring down your cost of acquisition so that, you know, the question that you asked for exit without any loss, I think that will be only possible if you average a decent number of shares at current level, bring down your cost of investment from the current levels, possibly somewhere close to about 25 or 2,400. You need to average accordingly and then stay invested from a long-term point of view.
Okay. average and then maybe can stay invested. That's a word coming in from Gaurang. But Chandan, what is your view coming in? Because Asian Paints last 1 year down 33%. Would you also suggest that maybe, averaging is the best option if, you have a long-term view coming in?
Yeah, so Gaurang has really explained very well about this counter. The stock is down by more than 33% in this year, and before that, it really had an amazing rally starting from 2008-9. Looking at the price structure, it has been making lower top, lower bottom on the monthly and the weekly chart, and as of now, we don't see any sign of reversal. Recently, it had broken the major support of 2600 zone, and after that, it even corrected to us 2250 marks. So till 2600 is not surpassed, it would be tough for the counter to hold the higher zone. But yes, the major trend on yearly point of view may be positive, and because of that, one need to do the averaging at lower levels, being a good company. So as per the data setup or chart, I believe 2000 to 2050 will be major support to hold the recent price decline, and about 2600 only the stability will be weak. So one need to have the strategy to either aid on decline with major support of 2000 2050, and about 2600 only the stability will be back for the bullish stance in the counter.
Okay. Let's move on to the next query that we have coming in right now. That's on PVR Inox. We have Sujata, who's writing to us from Kerala, holding 100 shares of PVR Inox at a price of 1,607 rupees per share. Wants to know whether to continue to hold or look to sell this one. Gaurang, what's your view coming in for PVR? Should one continue to hold PVR Inox or look to sell, book out some bit of profit, loss? What are we watching out for here?
So, this is again a tricky one. That I will like to, I'll replicate what I replied in terms of my advice to the investor for Asian Paints. So, this company, which is one of the largest exhibitors in India for multiplexes, it has acquired a lot of screens, and by the virtue of those acquisitions, the company is now one of the largest entertainment exhibitor. We've seen certain policy decisions from the government also in terms of how to make policy changes and make revival possible. Dependent on Hollywood and Bollywood releases, hoping that these two will contribute to the earnings visibility of multiplexes like PVR Inox. We have a positive coverage on PVR Inox from a long-term point of view. Stay invested in case if you got in at higher level, if you have investable amount from a long-term point of view, I would advise an add as well so that you can get a profitable exit.
Okay, and Chandan, what's your view coming in for PVR Inox? There's all the buzz that about caramel popcorns, but are we seeing any caramel coming in now for the stock also in terms of an up move?
I think we need to have more patience to get the test of caramel as of now, because the structure and the trend of the counter has turned slightly negative. It has been making lower top, lower bottom on the weekly chart, and recently it has corrected from 1620 to 1300 zone, and the trend is still negative, and every small bounce is being sold. So I believe 1200 could be a major support. That is roughly decline of 5 to 7% more from current level. I believe 1200 can be utilized as a major support zone to accumulate the counter, because earlier in many instances it took support at 1200 and gave the rally of more than 15 to 25% from those zones. So be ready for 1200. Those who are already holding, they need to wait or can do the average out at 1200. Those who are in sideline and waiting for decline can use 1200 zone to aid in their portfolio.
Okay, some more time maybe to get that caramel flavor, at least in PVR Inox stock. But let's move on to the next query. This one is on LIC Housing Finance. We have Deepak Kishan, who's writing to us from Bihar. 20 shares of LIC Housing is what they're holding at an average price of 653 rupees per share, currently making some bit of a loss here. Long-term view, Gaurang, what is the view for this one? Should they continue to hold LIC Housing Finance?
Well, firstly, definitely hold and use this price correction to add, because he just got 20 shares. And then you should have the longest time horizon when you buy into certain strong sectorial themes. For example, housing finance, like we discussed for Bajaj Housing Finance. This is one of the flagship companies of the HFC segment, that is housing finance. Has good parental backing in terms of funds, etc. In terms of performance, yes, it has been a little bit an underperformer over the last couple of months or maybe a year time. But given the optimistic outlook for the real estate sector and a rate cut scenario, hold and add and possibly extend your time horizon.
Okay, and Chandan, your view on LIC Housing Finance, what should the viewer do for the long term?
So the structure is negative and slow and steady. The stock is heading to lower levels, but I believe near to 550 or 540, stock may turn into the deep oversold territory, and because of that, support-based buying could be there. So I think wait for 550 kind of zone to accumulate or get some stability.
Okay, let's move on to the next query. LTI Mindtree, that's the stock we'll talk about. K. Narayan Reddy is writing to us from Warangal, who's saying that he's holding 150 shares of LTI Mindtree at a price of 6,000 rupees per share. Wants to know whether to continue to hold or look to sell, and what's the outlook overall on the stock for the medium to long term. Gaurang?
Well, the IT sector, we did mention about the positivity as a brokerage house. And within this IT universe, I think mid-cap IT has done reasonably well when you do a comparison for the last couple of quarters, large cap versus mid-cap IT. And look at the price point that some of the mid-cap IT companies are trading. For example, LTI Mindtree or a Coforge or a Persistent System, or maybe as a matter of fact, L&T Technologies. So on LTI Mindtree, hold on. We have a target of 6,365. And I think it would be prudent on my part to advise him to average. He's got just 150 shares. In case if he's got investable amount, he should average over here and give it a little bit of longish time horizon.
Okay, and your view on this IT company as well, Chandan?
So stock has tumbled down in last 7-8 days. Earlier it was doing well, but sudden corrective move is the reason of some worry in the market or in the stock. It has been falling down from last almost 8 to 9 days from 6,700 to 5,600 zone. The next support goes to 5,200, and I believe near to 5,200 to 5,250, some support-based buying could emerge, which can again take it to 6,000 kind of marks.
Okay, that's a view coming in on LTI Mindtree from both our experts, but I believe that's the last query that we have for today on the show. So thank you so much, Gaurang as well as Chandan for joining in with us and, giving our viewers all their stock-related query doubts and helping them guide forward and slide forward with the markets. But on that note, it's a goodbye from myself as well as the team who put this show together. Don't go anywhere. Closing bell up next to take you through the next 1 hour of trade.